Thanks, Heather, and hi, everybody. Hi from hot Sackville. I'm sure everybody else is sweltering as well. Um, so I thought today I would go over a few ways in Moodle that you can sort of encourage student participation in actually creating the content of your Moodle page. One of the things that we came up in the last session that I did with Scott was how important it is to keep the students engaged in your page by sort of having material that is constantly changing. So students have a reason to go back to the page. And one of the ways to do that, was include new material. So always be posting new material, or be, posting a sort of a weekly video, which is a sort of a really good one-on-one human kind of way to check in. But another way is to also have students be, really engaged and participate in the creation of the content on the Moodle site. So there's a few ways to do that. I'm going to go over three today: the wiki, the glossary, and the database. And as I go through, if you have any questions, feel free to save them for the end. But also, as I go through, if you have any questions in the chat, please don't hesitate to ask them, and Heather can jump in and just stop me anytime if I'm going too fast or if I miss something that you'd rather have covered. So I'll just start sharing my screen. So I thought the first thing I would do is just go through the individual activities from the perspective of the student, and how it works with uploading content. And then once we've taken a look at it, then we can kind of dive in the background and look at the settings afterwards. So the first one we'll look at is called the wiki. Now, a wiki is a collaboratively edited HTML page with hyperlinks, or an HTML sort of site, I suppose, with hyperlinks between the different pages. And so if we click on the collaborative wiki here, we can see, so as the instructor, I'll just close my drawer here. When I look at the wiki, I can see it, and I have all of the sort of the administration tabs at the top here. But the actual content of the wiki is down below. And so as you can see, it's basically like an HTML page where you can have text, you can have images, you can arrange text and images side by side in a table, and you can have links. And so these links are links to, outside the Moodle page. So here, this definition of what a wiki is, I've just copied from Wikipedia, and I've included a link to the main Wikipedia page. So if a student clicks on that, they'll be taken to the Wikipedia page. And so you can have a landing page, and then from that landing page, you can create links to other pages that you have created. So down here in this section, what to do on this page, in this wiki, already two different pages have been created. So if we click on one of these pages, we'll see that we're still in our wiki site here, but we've gone to another page. And so this is one of the pages that has been created. And so if we go back, we can click on the other page and also see that this is a page that has been created. So the type of wiki that this one is set up as is a collaborative wiki, which means that everybody in the class is able to add content to it. Everybody in the class is able to edit the wiki and edit every page and add their own pages. So I thought what I would do next is log in as a student and see what it would look like from a student's perspective to add a page to the wiki. So here I have logged in as a student in this course. So if I click on the collaborative wiki, here I see there are fewer tabs at the top because I'm a student, and I still see the same page as the instructor sees. But what I can do is I can edit this main page as a student. So if I click on edit, you see here we have the regular Moodle HTML editor, and this is, you'd be familiar with this for adding images and adding texts. and adding links to in text, arranging images in a table. The one special thing about the HTML editor in the wiki is that if you enclose a bit of text inside of 2 square brackets, that signals to Moodle to make this text a link to a new page. So what we can do is, so as student 2, I'm going to add a page for, let's say, Catherine Mansfield. So what I do is I type the link inside of double square brackets. And that's all we have to do. So now we can save. And you see now as a student, I have updated this page. There's new text that I added there. But you'll see that the link is in red. And this means that the page has been referenced, but it hasn't actually been created yet. But to create the page, all you have to do is simply click on it. And it brings us to the page. So you can see now that as a student, I'm editing this page, Catherine Mansfield. So, I can add, perhaps I want to add add an image here. That one. Make it a little bit smaller. And then the student can, add some text, and we'll save the page. And so now this page has been saved as a part of the wiki. So if we go back to the wiki home, collaborative wiki, you can see that now Catherine Mansfield, the page for Catherine Mansfield has been added, and it's now in blue, which means that anybody who visits here can now view it. So if we go back to our professor's view, and if we refresh the page, you can see that now this Catherine Mansfield link has been added here. So if we click on it, and here we go. So there's a little page about Catherine Mansfield. So this is a way that you can have your whole class kind of come together and create content that is then, a part of what is delivered for the students. And so, all of the students' contributions to the content for the class are shared, and every student can access it. So a couple more things to note about the wiki is that you can actually export the wiki as a PDF. So once it's all been created, if you wanted to save the sort of the class project as a PDF for for later reference or just as a showcase, what you can do is you can click on export. You can export it as an EPUB for an e-reader, or export it as a PDF. And we'll just export that, and then you can see that here we have the wiki pages. All the wiki pages are are linked together in this PDF. So it doesn't always do the best job of formatting it, but what you can see is that each of the pages is listed here or sort of together here on the PDF, and so that's a sort of a way to save the students' work outside of the class. You can also see, as with every wiki, you can actually see the history of the edits that were done to the page. So up at the top here, you can see if you click on history. So this shows us all of the different sort of versions of the wiki that have been created. And so if we were to say, and you can actually compare between different versions. So if we go compare selected here, what it does is you can see you can actually see the progress of the of how the wiki has evolved. So you can see that by the time we get to this latest version, these are the things that are highlighted are the things that were different from this previous version. So that's just a neat way to kind of look at the evolution of a page over time. You can also click on the map. And what the map does is the map lists all the named pages that are a part of your wiki site. And so it's an easy way to sort of, if there's quite a few pages and you're not sure exactly, you know there was a page about such and such somewhere in there, but you weren't quite sure exactly how to navigate to it. By clicking on the map, you can then see all of the pages listed by their title. And an interesting thing that can happen is that a page can actually become orphaned. So if we go to the main wiki page here, and let's edit it. And so if we now delete the link to the Robert Louis Stevenson page and save it. So now that link is gone, but the page hasn't actually been deleted. It was just the link to that page was deleted here. So if we go to the map, we see that Professor Stevenson page still exists. And so what you can do is under the map menu, there's you can actually click Orphaned Pages. And this will give you a list of all of the pages that are created and that exist, but that don't have any links to them anymore. So that's a way to just keep track of which pages are there, but you're not able to access. So that's the collaborative wiki, in which everybody in the course is able to edit a page. If we go back to the demo area and say you wanted individual students to create their own wiki sites, so that could be just a single page or a collection of pages that they have linked, but you don't want them to work together. You just want them to work individually. Well, you can do that with the individual wiki. So if we click on individual wiki here, you see that, so myself, the user, the professor, hasn't actually added any pages to the individual wiki yet. But over here on the top right, there's a drop-down menu, and this shows all of the students that are in the course. And we can see we can choose the wiki that these students have created. So if I go student 1, you can see I can see now this wiki page that was created by student 1. And because I'm the instructor, I'm able to go in and edit this page. But as a student, I wouldn't be able to go in and edit it. So I'll just switch to the student view here for a moment. So here we are as student 2. So if we go back to the home page, if we go to the individual wiki, so student 2 has started this page, but they haven't really got around to getting a lot of content on there yet, because they wanted to go and kind of look at the other pages first to see what the other students have done. So student 2 can actually go and look at student 1's page and see what she did for her project. But if student 2 tries to edit student 1's page, she'll actually get an error that says she's not allowed to, or they're not allowed to edit this page. So that's a way to have separate wikis for each student. So I'll go back to the professor's view and just go through some of the settings on the wiki. So because the wiki has already been created, there's certain settings that we can't change. But the Wiki Mode, this is where you can set either a collaborative wiki in which everybody works together on the site, or individual wiki where students individually work. And the front page name, you have to give the wiki, the landing page, the name when you set up the wiki. So that could either be front page or, collaborative wiki homepage, or perhaps the name of the assignment, author biographies, however you want to set that up. The format, there are several different formats for editing the wiki page. I prefer to use the HTML format. I won't go through the others, but what I would suggest is checking this force format, because when a student goes to create a new wiki page, if you haven't forced format, whichever format you choose, every time they go to create a new page, it'll ask them what kind of format they want to use, and that might be confusing for certain students. So really, those are the basic settings for the wiki. So unless there are any sort of burning questions about the wiki, I might go on to look at the glossary next. So another way that you can have students add content to your course is with a glossary. And now a glossary is pretty much what you would think it would be. It's a way that you can have terms and then definitions for those terms added to your course. So if we click on the literary terms here, you can see that a couple of different terms have been added. And so once you have a lot of different definitions added, you might need to you might need to browse, so you can see all of the definitions that have been added that start with A, or all of the definitions that have been added that start with S, or you can view all of them. And so editing the glossary is really straightforward, and it's as straightforward for a student as for the instructor. I'll just switch over to the student's view again. The literary terms here. And if we go to add a new entry, you simply just add a concept. So time perhaps, and then we can save it. And so you see that this new entry has been added, and we're just looking at that entry. We want to see all of the entries again. We simply click all, and you can see that now all of the entries have been added to the glossary. Now, as the author of an entry, as a student, I can go in and edit this entry, or I can delete this entry as a student. And so I'll go back as the instructor. And we just look at the settings for the glossary. So, like usual, you can choose whether or not to display the glossary on the front page. The glossary type, it's a little bit confusing when you first get into it. By default, it's set to be a secondary glossary, and that's how you want to leave it. The other option is a main glossary. However, a main glossary is a glossary that's made up of secondary glossaries clobbered together. So if you're just if you don't have any secondary glossaries created yet, the main glossary won't be of any relevance. So I find the nomenclature a little bit confusing. But anyways, the point is that you want to start out with a secondary glossary. So you can set it that the instructor has to approve entries before they're added to the glossary. And by default, it's set to be approved by default. And so as you saw, when we added the entry as the student, it was added immediately to the glossary, and it didn't need to be approved by the instructor, but you can set it so that the instructor needs to approve the entry before it's added to the glossary. You can choose whether or not students are always able to edit their glossary, sort of indefinitely, or if there's only a set period of time, I think it's about half an hour, that they can edit their entries. If you'd like to make it so that there can be only one entry of a particular topic, then you can set duplicate entries allowed to be no. And you can also turn on comments on entries so that you or other students can comment on the entries that were added by students.
Keagan, we have
Now,
one question from the chat, and
sure,
that's, can videos or images be added to the glossary, or do you think Wiki is better for that?
absolutely, you can add videos and images. I'll go to the student view, and if we go to add an entry here, you'll see that the entry box for the definition is the regular sort of HTML editor box that you see everywhere else in Moodle. So what you could do is you could actually even record a video straight into here, just like you can record a video into, say, like a weekly message, you know, the sort of the 2-minute maximum video that Moodle allows you to record into here. So you can record a video into here, you can add a video, you could add images and links. It could sort of be as rich as you want it to be. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, great. So there are a number of different ways to display the glossary, and I won't get into all of them here, but the one interesting one is that you can sort of display it as an FAQ style, where so that's one of the uses for the glossary, as instead of having sort of like, you know, terms with definitions, your entries into the glossary could be sort of frequently asked questions. So the concept would be the question, and then the definition would be the answer to the question. And so you can have that displayed with the FAQ style display format. So those are sort of the main settings that you might be interested in for the glossary. So if there are no other questions about the glossary, I'll go on to talk about the database, which is the last topic that I have prepared for today.
One quick question from the chat, and that's, would you recommend using the glossary FAQ or discussion forums for general questions?
That's a great question. So the idea with a glossary FAQ is that it's sort of the question and the answer are put in at the same time. So it would be for a case where you have already been asked the question, and you've developed the answer, and then you want to present those questions and answers together to students or to whomever. The forum is a much better way to kind of respond to questions in real time as they come in. So with a question and answer forum, students can post questions, and then you can reply to that question, and then another student can reply to your reply, or another student could reply to that question. And essentially you could have many different replies and many different answers to the same question if you're using a forum. So I think in the case of a kind of a question and answer sort of scenario, I think the forum would probably be the better way to go for that.
Thanks, Keagan.
Yeah. So the last thing that we'll take a look at is the database activity. So I'm going to switch over to the student view and go back to our course page. So when I click on the database as a student, I can see that we have so the database is a collection of entries that students and yourself as the instructor have added to the database. And what you do is when you set up the database, you decide what bits of information are going to be required for each entry. And so there's a little bit of work at the front end, because you have to sort of come up with the format. So for example, for this database, it's a database of rare books. And so if we click on an entry in the database, you see that we have the information that has been attached to this entry. There's a publication date, an author, a title, a picture, a description. This person didn't fill in the publisher, but there's a link to the sale of the book. And if we look at all of the entries in this database, we can see that all of the entries have this same information in them. So the publication date, the title, a picture, and a description. So that is. That's how the entries get displayed, is that all of the fields that you've required to be a part of an entry are displayed on the when you view the entries. So as a student, let's say, if we go to add an entry, here we see all of the fields that the instructor has required of us for creating an entry. And so if we were going to, let's say, put in make an entry from this rare book here. So I'm just going to we'll just quickly copy the description here. This is the description of the book. And we're required to put in a picture. So I'm going to browse for a picture. And the fields that are marked with these exclamation points are required. The other fields are optional. And so if we don't add information to those fields, they'll just be left blank. And it says that the link to the book sale is required, so we will copy that link as well. And we'll go save and view. So now you can see that the third entry has been added to the database, and we have the picture. We've got all of the information that the student just entered. So, and if we go back to the list view, you can see that we have all three entries in the list here. And there are different ways to search and to filter the entries if you have a lot of entries in the database. I'll just go back to the instructor's view here and click on the database. So as an instructor, we have a few extra tabs up here than the student had. We can view the list, which is the list of all entries in the database. We can view single entries, so you can get there either by clicking on the picture of the entry. So this takes us to the single view, or if we just click on View Single tab at the top here, this will take us to the list of all the entries, but displayed chronologically. And we can click through them up here. We could add our own entry, but the two important areas as an instructor are fields and templates. So I'll go to fields first. So fields are all of the bits of information that we require students to enter in order to create an entry in the database. And fields can be of different types. So for example, for the rare book entry, we have a date field for the publication date, a file field if a student had a particular file about that book they wanted to upload, a picture field, a description of the book, which is a text area field. So that's the regular, the sort of HTML editor in which you could include, a student could record himself actually describing the book with a video and holding it if that were appropriate in the text area field. And then the text fields are simply just sort of a text box, a simple text box. So you can't import pictures or add pictures or anything, but just the. And so to create a new field, to add a field, you simply choose from this menu the type of field that you'd like to add. So there's a whole bunch. You can add check boxes. You can add coordinates, so latitude and longitude coordinates, multimedia, pictures, text area, or links. So if we just were to add, say, a new text input. So the field name is, we're just going to call this new field. And if you want it to be a required field, if it's something they have to input, then you can check this box and make it a required field. And so you can see that now we have new field here listed. So this is the list of fields. So these are the things that students must include in their entry. The way you arrange these fields to be displayed to students is done under the Templates tab. So if we click on Templates, you can see that there's a number of different templates here that we can set up. So I'll just start with the list template. You'll remember when I'll just actually show as the student view. So when we're in the list view, we see just sort of a thumbnail view of all of the images that have been added. And so this is set by in the repeated entry in the template for the list template. And so you can see that the fields that we have set up, such as publication date or picture of the book or description of the book, they're all over here on the left. And in this table here, we have in double brackets some of these fields. So we have a picture of the book, and below that we have the title field, and then this is just text that I've entered, and then we have the author field. So if we wanted to add a new field, say we also, in the list view, we wanted to have the publisher listed. So I could type I could say published by, and now if I just leave my cursor where I want it to go, and I click name of publishing company over here, you can see that what that does is that inserts inside square brackets the name of this field. And so if we go down and save the template, now if we go back to the students view and we refresh this page, you can see that we have the field, the text that we entered is here, and then if the publisher, this was a bad example because the publisher has been left blank on all of these entries. But at any rate, the way that I added the title and the author was by doing just that. So I clicked in here and I clicked on title, and then I wrote by, and then I clicked on author, and that did work. I'm not sure exactly what's happening here at the moment. So that's the basics of editing a template. Is you click in the HTML box here where you want the field to go, and then you click over on the left hand side here, and that will insert that field. So if we go to, so that's for the list view. If we go to the single view template, you'll remember that the list view just had the little thumbnail and then just the author and the title, whereas the single view had all of the information that we'd entered. And so you can see here, this is the table that is created that has that holds all of that information. So if we go back to the students view and we click on this here, you can see that in the table we have the description on the left and then the actual contents of that field on the right. And you can see here, so this is the description that we've entered, and then these are the sort of placeholders for the content of that field. So you can also see that when we added the new field just then called new field, and you can see that by default any new fields that you add will just be sort of appended. They'll be added at the bottom of the template. So if you didn't want that there, you wanted it somewhere else, you can just delete it from there and put that in somewhere else in the template. So we can just save that template. And the add template, this is the template that is shown to students when they go to add a new entry. And so you can see that this is how you can arrange sort of the order in which students are required to enter the information. So what I'll do is actually I'll edit this template and we'll say so this is the new field that we added, and so on the add template, that's just at the very bottom here. So we'll go save this template. Okay. And now if we go to the students view and we go to add a new entry, so what we're seeing here corresponds to the way the fields are arranged in the add template. And you'll be able to see that at the very bottom, this new text field that we added is shown here with the text. This is a new field. I'm going to just leave that for now, and I will go back to the database. And so I think I'll pause the demonstration there and just open it up to questions. If anybody has any questions about any of these three activities, or any other questions about sort of, student content, getting students engaged in actually adding things to the Moodle page.
Keagan, can you see the chat?
I cannot see the chat, no.
Okay, so we have one question from one of the OLTCs at Bishops who asks, I know that databases do not have a specific grading feature on them, so do you recommend creating a single grade item in the grade book?
That's right. So databases aren't a graded item. What you can do is add a manual grade item to your grade book, and then just like you would if you had an in-class assignment that you wanted to add to your Moodle gradebook, or if you had sort of an in-class participation grade that you wanted to add, you can just add a manual grade item to your Moodle gradebook, and you'd be able to grade the entries yourself, and then update the students' marks accordingly.
Perfect. And that segues into our next question, which is, if students are creating or editing entries, are there approval options, as with the glossary, to moderate and change the fields? To moderate changes to the fields.
So students aren't able to change fields. You see, as the student view here, I can view the list, I can view single, I can add an entry, but I can't actually modify any of the fields. And so only the instructor can actually change fields, change the arrangement of fields and which fields are required. I'll just take a look at the settings for the database. I'm not sure if there is an yes. So under that's right. I forgot to go through the settings for the database. I'm sorry. So if you go back to as the instructor, if you go to edit settings on the database, there are a number of settings that are interesting. And so just like the glossary, you can require approval before entries are added to the database. So once a student submits her entry, it won't show up to the other students until you approve it and add it. And again, you can add allow comments, so students can comment. You can comment, students can comment on other entries. You can also require a student to create an entry before they can view other entries. So that's a good one to prevent them from just sort of, to force them to actually do the work themselves first, before they go and look at sort of what other students did. And you can set a maximum number so that a student can only add, 1 or 2 or 5 or an unlimited number of entries. And so the entries can also be rated, and I'm not sure if somebody else has more experience with the database and can speak to the ratings. I haven't. I'm not really familiar with exactly how the ratings work on the database, but an entry can. I believe that everybody professors and TAs. So you can set, the administrator can set who can rate on a database, and the ratings of the database will the managers or the other professors or the TAs can rate, and then Moodle will sort of conglomerate the ratings that way, based on the aggregate.
And we have a question about the wiki demonstration, and that is there a way to prevent the accidental deletion of content by students? I know you talked about how you can see different versions and who edited what, but what happens, I guess, can you prevent the deletion, or what happens if things get deleted?
Well, I guess so. Yeah, with the wiki, the history is the sort of the way, the version history is the way to, I guess, kind of prevent that. So what you can do is, if something does get deleted, you can go back through the history and sort of see when the content was deleted and roll back the wiki to that version, or even just look at the history of that version and then copy the content out that was deleted and put it back into the current version.